All right, guys, I'm actually going to start with a confession this week. I used to hate poetry. Like, I was trained as a journalist, and so I've always been about nonfiction, just the facts. And when I was a new English teacher, I had no idea how to approach a poem, and I felt like I was missing a lot of what was happening. Like, the smarter people around me would like nod thoughtfully and furrow their brows and have like, interesting things to say about the words on the page, where and I was just like, I don't get it. So I actually spent some time figuring out how to figure out poetry. And now I don't say it's my favorite. I still don't love it. I don't read poetry for fun, on a Friday night. But I can appreciate what's happening on the page now. And so I want to share with you a system that I came up with that helps my kids break down poems so that we really understand and can dig into them and have a rich experience, even if it's not necessarily your favorite thing in the world. And if you love poetry, hey, that's awesome. Love what you love. This is actually a handy tool to help you as well. So this week I want to talk about how to read a poem. This week we are not going to dig into a specific poem. I'm just going to lay the groundwork about a few steps, 9 steps actually, that you can use when your English teacher gives you a poem or you see it on a standardized test. If there's some environment where you have to dig into some lines, this is going to be a helpful path. All right, first of all, show no fear. It's going to be okay. Okay. Do not be afraid of the poem. You are not going to understand everything the first time you read it, and that's okay. So it's actually part of the fun of unpacking the package of a poem and starting to understand and see and notice small things along the way. Some of them are very dense, and some of them I still don't get everything that's in there, and that's okay. That's part of the fun of the process. So surrender that idea and don't be afraid. All right, we're going to start with the title of a poem. And then you're just going to stop. You're just going to sit and consider what this might be about. Just thinking about that title, where do you think you're going to be going? Decide that before you move into the actual lines. Then you're going to read that poem all the way through. I don't want you to stop. You're just going to keep on trucking, because in this step 3, you're just trying to get the gist. Do you have a general understanding about what happens in the poem? We'll dig into details on later steps and iron out any wrinkles. But for now, just do you kind of understand what's going on in this poem? Number 4, you're then going to read it again, but this time you're going to annotate as you do. And way back at the beginning of the year, I want to say it was like the second Freestyle Friday that we had, we talked about annotation. I gave you some tools for that. Use those tools. Basically, if you have a copy that you can write on, that's fabulous. If not, do it on sticky notes or just like write comments on a piece of binder paper. It doesn't matter. But you're basically going to write down and notice anything that you really like that jumps out at you as being interesting, anything that reminds you of something else because it might be an allusion to another work that you're familiar with. Circle anything that you think is confusing. Chances are there's probably something pretty interesting happening in that confusing section once you break it down. And then anything that you think, this seems like it's important, but I don't know why, mark that. Now you're going to go back and you're going to look up any words that you don't know. Use your dictionary, grab your phones. Poets use very limited words, right? A poem is very short generally. And so they're very mindful of every word they pack into that small space. Like, their words matter a lot. So if there's a word you don't know, you might be missing a whole bunch of meaning from that. So make sure that you have your definitions down and you know what the words actually mean. Then I want you to identify who is the narrator of the poem. It's not necessarily the poet. In fact, it's probably not the poet himself or herself. Instead, it's a person whose guise they've taken on, who's, that's the lens that we're seeing this situation through. So as best you can, figure out anything you can about the narrator. Are they sarcastic? Are they maternal? What is the point that they want us to take away from it? Who is talking to us? Then the 7th step, we're almost there, remember there are only 9, is noticing shifts or contradictions or changes. If the narrator is trucking along and then all of a sudden a hinge word like a but or however comes up in the poem, generally it's like 2/3 into the poem, but nevertheless, and then whatever comes after that hinge is probably the point of the poem. So pay attention if you notice any shifts or changes, because that's where the meaning is probably right after that. Look at the structure. How did this poet put the words on the page, right? What's the rhyme scheme? Does the physical structure meter add to the meaning of the poem? More modern poets, they actually like physically take up a lot of white space on the page, and some of them even make images with how the words are placed. Like, that's important. It's not by accident. So what meaning can we give to that? And then finally, my friend, you're almost there. Just read it one more time out loud if possible, if people won't think you're crazy. Like, don't do this during the SAT. But if you're in a situation where you can actually hear the words after you've done that deep study and dug into it, read it one more time and see if that doesn't help solidify everything and make it concrete. Congratulations, you guys. You now have a 9 steps to success about how to read a poem. Next week, I think we might dig into a poem or two, but don't worry, I'll go easy on you. It's always fun. More than frustrating around here on the YouTube channel, or at least I try to make it that way. I hope you guys had a great week, are set for a great weekend. I'll be back on Monday with grammar like we do. Wednesday is always vocab, and then next Friday, let's put those steps into practice with a little poetry reading. All right, I'll see you guys then. Have a great one. Be great. Bye, y'all.